Coming up next on City Corner, we discuss a new exhibit at the Missouri History Museum on African American male identity. Please stay tuned. Welcome to City Corner. I'm your host, Melanie Adams. Today, we're talking about a new exhibit at the Missouri History Museum entitled Question Bridge, Black Males. Joining me now to discuss both the exhibit and this important topic are two of its program people. The first one, M.K. Stallings, who's Assistant Director of Community Education and Events at the Missouri History Museum, and Tabari Coleman with the Anti Defamation League. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Well, first, the most basic question is African American men. Talk about why you feel this is such an important topic for an exhibit.
Well, so when I think about just how diverse that community is, I think there's some assumptions that people make about what it means to be black or what it means to be a black man. And so this is an opportunity to hear just how diverse those issues are, those perspectives are, and it's a chance for the community to really be engaged in a way that I don't think that they would typically be able to.
Great. MK?
Yeah, I mean, it's, first of all, the vision behind actually having this this transmedia art project, as they call it, the creators of the exhibit call it, is an opportunity for us to put on display some of the very real conversations that could be happening anywhere, any given time, from barbershops to pool halls to just outside of the church to wherever black men might congregate, and then to allow the public to engage in this conversation, even if it's passively. It allows us to have a better understanding about black male identity in the United States.
Well, I think you bring up a really good point. I think we all kind of have a vision of what the exhibit looks like, so it's important for us to be able to tell our viewers, because it's not your traditional museum exhibit in terms of you're going to go in and see artifacts and labels. So can you talk a little bit about the exhibit and how it's set up? And you use the term multimedia.
Yeah, multimedia. So the exhibit creators, Chris Johnson is one of them, and he has been really instrumental in the conversations that we've had about setting up the exhibit. We have a guy by the name of Thomas Sleet, who works at the Missouri History Museum, who's been instrumental in laying out the exhibit. But we have about maybe 4 to 5 different monitors, right? Imagine these computer screens like Max Headroom, right? Where these individuals, where these screens carry people in them, obviously through this media feed, that where people are talking about their experiences. So you may have one person, one screen, where an individual is posing a question, and then another person represented in this screen, right, who answers it. And so this is an ongoing conversation from screen to screen, hence the reason why it's called transmedia, why they call it a transmedia art project, because it's not just a single screen where we're viewing and listening, where you see several screens that seem to be reacting to each other as though it was just some serious Skype meetup session. So.
And about how many of these segments are there within the exhibit?
How many different segments? I believe that there are 4 different segments, so I could be wrong, but certainly it's about 3 hours worth of content. And what the people will see are essentially about 4 to 6 rows of monitors on each side of this particular space. So after they get a chance to experience one set of monitors, they'll be able to go around and experience that. And you'll see individuals like Delroy Lindo. You'll see other cultural commentators who will weigh in on some of the issues of the day facing black men.
And Tabari, how does the ADL fit into this picture of Question Bridge, and what is their involvement in the program?
So the ADL is one of the nation's oldest civil rights and human relations organizations.
And I think we have a few images, so you can talk a little bit about the ADL and their programming as well.
Yeah, so I run all of our education programs through the ADL's A World of Difference Institute. We're one of the nation's oldest civil rights and human relations organizations. And so we go in and customize programs to talk about issues that are in some ways, these are issues that have a huge impact on our community. Everything from cyberbullying to anti-bullying, Holocaust education, everything is customized. And so what we'll be doing with the partnership is creating rap sessions for people to come through after they spend some time in the exhibit, being able to sit and have a structured discussion in a way that lets them take what they learned from that experience to the next level. Our hope is that we'll be focusing on issues around internalized oppression, maleness and masculinity. What does it mean to be a black man? How does race influence masculinity? Be looking at identity and our multiple identities within the black community as black men, as well as how pervasive language is and thinking about the different ways that we use language. So we'll be touching on some issues that might be a little taboo, but are conversations that are a part of our social discourse.
And these are free opportunities, as is the exhibit is obviously free, but these are opportunities for people who have visited the exhibit during that time frame to then be able to participate in the rap session.
Exactly. So the rap sessions are going to be taking place twice a month. So it'll be the second and the fourth Tuesday in the evenings from 6 to, we said like 7:30.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
6 to 7:30. So participants will come through the exhibit. We'll have a set time where we'll sit and kind of talk through what their experiences were like and what can we do with this information. You know, it isn't just about, you know, people coming together just to have a conversation. You can do that, you know, as MK said, in the barbershops, at home, on the bus. But this is a chance for us to really be structured in thinking about how we move these issues to the next level.
Well, and this seems like a very unique exhibit. I know we call it almost more of an installation than an exhibit just because of the formatting of it. But how does this exhibit fit into the mission of the Missouri History Museum?
Well, the Missouri History Museum is all about facilitating these community conversations. For the longest time, we've envisioned ourselves as creating a community space, a public square, if you will, where these kinds of dialogues can take place. And so with this installation, with this transmedia art project, we're keeping in this mission, you know, where we not only have things on display, but where we give people in the community an opportunity to comment on these artifacts, these different pieces that we might have available for public consumption. And certainly, this transmedia art project fits within that. Because, I mean, after you experience it, you can't help but go out into the community and talk about it, as well as stay in the space and talk to others. And that's precisely where Tabari Coleman comes in.
Right. And I guess as we're thinking about this, why is this so pertinent today? I know a lot of people may think we have an African-American president elected for the second time. We have positive role models of African-American men. So why is this important specifically at this time period?
Well, the best way to kind of understand it is that even though we have an African-American male president, he's been elected for a second time, and all of that good stuff, do we know about the inner lives? Do we understand the inner life of Barack Obama, President Barack Obama? Do we understand the inner lives of these black men, the different struggles, the different questions they have to ponder? And I think through these kinds of discourses, we can begin to investigate, begin to explore what that means. And you know, and I'm just so glad that we have an apt facilitator such as Tabari to come in and help us negotiate and navigate those spaces in a way that's completely inclusive. So, you know, just because we're talking about black men, it doesn't have to be only black men in the space. It would be, of course, a space that we're looking for black men to be a part of, but it doesn't just have to be black men. And this is a community conversation. This is not a one that should be where we shy people away from it, we get people away from it, but instead we invite people to be in this conversation with us.
Right, and I think this is such a great way to build upon the wonderful work that the ADL does, and I think it'll be really exciting. We usually with these types of sessions in terms of what comes up, and when you said it was an hour and a half, I'm sure people are going to continue to stay and continue to talk. But I guess what do you hope comes out of these sessions and from the museum hosting such an exhibit, Tabari?
You know, when I think about the partnership and I think about the credibility that the museum gives to these topics, we're going to have such a broad group of people that are going to come and that are going to want to engage in conversation that allows them to really take something away beyond just dialoguing
Right.
with different groups of people. You know, you asked about why this conversation is relevant, and sure, us having a black president, I think, really brings it to the forefront. But there are stereotypes that we all have about one another. Mm-hmm. And so this is a chance for us to really have some candid discussions and recognize that what it means to be a black man differs from person to person. And so although the media may portray one image of what it means to be black, they'll have a chance to see that it is so much broader than that. You know, we don't really do that with other ethnic groups. Right. You know, I think about when you turn on the news and you see crime that happens in the city and there's constantly black faces, and then that creates this discomfort that people feel when maybe they enter into the city. But yet when you hear about a serial killer, you know, which we know typically would be white men, we aren't fearful of white men in the same way. And so I think this gives us a chance to really talk about things in a way that causes people to do some critical thinking, some self-reflection, and hopefully move them to a level of better understanding.
Well, MK, in the short time we have left, what do you hope people will take away from the exhibit?
Well, first of all, I want people to come in to experience the exhibit, to comment on the exhibit, to get on their social media networks and discuss what they've experienced, because what they'll get out of it, again, are the candid conversations that black men might have amongst themselves in closed spaces. They'll be able to air some things out, hear some things, and maybe even participate in some community conversations. So I think what I want them to take away from the experience is to know that these black men are complex beings like anyone else.
Well, I think we're going to take a quick break here. We're going to continue our discussion about Question Bridge. Coming up next, we'll talk a little bit about the programming and how schools can experience the exhibit as well. So please stay tuned.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Wow, these are really good.
You act surprised. Practice makes perfect.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who don't need perfection. They need you. Body language can tell you all sorts of things. Like someone is having a stroke. Know the sudden signs. Learn fast. Face drooping, arm weakness, speech difficulty. Time to call 911 and get them to a hospital immediately. Learn the body language and spot a stroke fast.
Nice. No. Oops. Yeah, sure. Let's go.
Moms everywhere are finding ways to keep kids active and healthy.
Works every time.
Get ideas, get involved, get going at letsmove.gov.
Welcome back to City Corner. Today we're discussing a new exhibit at the Missouri History Museum entitled Question Bridge, Black Males. My guests for the second segment are two museum staff employees, again, M.K. Stallings, Assistant Director, Community Education and Events, and Edward Watson, who is an educational intern at the museum. Thank you for joining us. Well, MK, can you start us off talking a little bit about the programs that'll be happening as part of this exhibit?
Sure. After starting with some, lectures and some talks, we'll get into music, kind of the music of black men. One of my favorite black male performers out of hip hop is a guy by the name of Jay Dilla. He passed away. And it was a hereditary sort of illness, but his music was so influential on hip hop and as well as local hip hop artists that myself and a guy by the name of Lamar Harris thought it would be good to do like a jazz interpretation of some songs from his catalog. So we'll be celebrating the life of James Yancey, Jay Dilla, in this very much so jazz-oriented piece that'll happen in March. And then we have a couple of exceptional black male poets coming out of California who are just fantastic, that I think that people need to hear. They're able to discuss black masculinity not in a way that's just patriarchal, not in a way that could come off as sexist, but in a sense they're able to discuss it in a way that shows the vulnerabilities or the multiple masculinities that we don't necessarily get into. And then too, we'll have another poet, a brother by the name of L. Thought. He's St. Louis based, who's a part of the Moorish Science Temple. He'll be able to bring in the intersections of his particular political and faith-based view as it relates to black masculinity as well. So it's a rich lineup of cultural programs that runs the gamut from lectures to art.
Well, and then also we do have some programs aimed at our school groups, and you've been instrumental in developing those. Can you first talk a little bit about the experience of developing the program and why you were excited to do that for this exhibit?
Yes, well, it's been a lot of hard work, but I'm proud of the way it's come along, and I heard about the exhibit coming, so I wanted to get more young men to come through the schools, the high schools, and we're aiming it towards 6th through 12th grades because I feel that the younger kids, maybe they're not quite ready to express certain things after watching this exhibit. And so after doing a lot of work, and then we're going to aim it towards the 6th through 12th graders, and when they come, we have 3 different sections they can experience. First, they will come in, and as you've talked about before, the exhibit is set up into 2 semi-arcs with television screens. MK has mentioned that before. So they will get to experience this. Then after that, we want to, at the museum, create a safe environment. Because I think sometimes kids, maybe they want to talk about some things, but they aren't necessarily able to, or they feel kind of reticent about doing it. So here we want to create a space where they'll feel more comfortable so they can talk about what they just witnessed. Because I think when you watch this exhibit, it's going to bring up a lot of strong feelings. I mean, you're gonna feel something while watching this, because this exhibit, it goes through the gamut of many different things relating to black men. So there will be a space for them to be able to discuss what they witnessed and how they feel about it.
Okay, so kind of similar to the adult rap sessions, but more geared towards those students. But more
geared towards the younger students.
Okay, and then is there a third, so are there 2 components, gallery and classroom? Or?
And then after that, I think one way it differs from the adult rap sessions is here, the third part is we will have a space where I want to find local leaders, or local leaders not necessarily from the present, but from the past here in St. Louis, that maybe people aren't aware of, people that aren't famous, but people that have done something that can contribute to the community. These are people who are black men and maybe some black women who have contributed to the community in different ways. So therefore, the students in this third section will be able to read and learn more about them and the qualities and characteristics that they exude that have helped them become successful.
Right. Okay. And so how are you getting the word out about this opportunity for the students?
Well, we have done a lot of e-newsletter and a lot of envelope stuffing, and the way we started was, we know we've had past exhibits at the History Museum that are, similar maybe in some ways to the one we have now. I know we've mentioned race. And American I Am, and we've had many students have come to these, and we sent out a lot of newsletters to people who had come to those exhibits and enjoyed those, and thought maybe they would also enjoy something like this. And we already have a few schools that have already registered.
And I just think that's really important, because so many times I just hear people like, oh, we didn't know about it, or where did you advertise it? So I think that's kind of important. And then MK, going back to kind of the adult program, I know there's also a combined symposium with both the Civil War exhibit and this exhibit. So can you talk a little bit about that symposium?
Absolutely. So one of the things that we're doing in March, about mid-March, is a symposium on racial formation. Racial formation is the social process by which people become black or white, how a person could become Asian, right? So these are socially constructed categories that may have something to do with phenotypical features such as skin color, but ultimately it's about how law and how practices and how customs kind of help create these social identities that we might assume. So racial formation is going to feature a host of different intellectual scholars, such as Dr. Nell Irvin Painter, who most recently wrote a book or published a book called The History of White People. David Roediger, who's not too far from us, who's going to talk about how race has survived U.S. history and all the things that we've had to say about it. But what I'm really excited about is a question bridge workshop that will be ran by Bayate Ross Smith on the first day of the workshop. So while we have lectures and panels going on, we're going to offer educators an opportunity to get more into the question bridge Black males, which is the complete title of of the installation, but Question Bridge Black Males curriculum that they offer for free on their website. You can see it, but he's going to actually help educators work through that in a way. And again, this is free. This is completely free and available to the public. All they would have to do is contact the Missouri History Museum, our reservation department, and they could register specifically for that sort of workshop, as well as check out the other talks that will be happening throughout the day.
Right, and I think it's really important for us to also emphasize, when we say educator, we use that term very broadly, because you may have someone who runs a youth program after school, you may have the Sunday school instructor, so that session is not only for teachers, it is for anyone who works with young people, who is interested in how can they utilize this exhibit to really educate young people.
Absolutely. I mean, when you have an opportunity to meet with one of the exhibit or installation creators.
And I think we have a few images of the exhibit so people can kind of see what we're talking about.
Right. So I mean, these beautiful images that that the general public are able to view or see right now. If you can have an exhibit creator come by and talk about how educators, whether they're in the community or in the classroom, to use these topics to help further enable young people to know something about themselves and know something about their social circumstances or whatever the case may be, you need to fully take advantage of that. So we completely, we're reaching out to anybody who interacts with the general public, young people in youth centers or whatever the case may be, so that they have the same opportunity to work and develop professionally, you know, under the tutelage or guidance of an exhibit creator such as Bayate Ross Smith. So.
Well, and Edward, what surprised you most about the exhibit? Because I think you've had an opportunity to see small bits and pieces of it as you've been putting it together. So what kind of new information did you find out, or what did you say, wow, that really intrigues me?
Yeah, actually, I think some of the topics they talk about were intriguing. I actually got to witness some of the exhibit, and a lot of I got to witness it in a way where it's split up. The way it will be for students is when they come, they'll get to witness 30 to 45 minutes of a part of it. But as we've said before, there's a lot a lot of time that is for there. So no one's, it's meant so no one is going to sit there and hear all of it.
Right.
But I was able to see each different part, each question that is asked. And there are some really interesting questions that are asked. Very simple ones, very thoughtful ones, and some that are quite shocking, literally.
Well, and I think one of the things that's so interesting when you watch is also it's multi-generational. And I think that's something we haven't discussed yet, but when you go to the website and when you go to the exhibit, you see everything from little 5- and 6-year-olds answering the question all the way to, you know, men past that age. And so I think that's really engaging. And I think it's interesting that you talk about the questions because it is very basic questions like what are your dreams, what are your hopes? But then when you get questions like what are your fears? And you can see the wheels kind of turning and they're like, well, do I answer this? How do I answer this? Do I answer this truthfully? So what do you really hope the students will take away from the program? So at the end, when they're leaving the Missouri History Museum, what do you want them to think about their experience?
I feel that Question Bridge, it's Question Bridge Black Males, but I hope that the educators don't feel that it's just for black men. So I hope all students will come, because I think all students can learn something from this exhibit. Also, I hope that, because the third part of our educational program will be for them to find qualities and strong characteristics of local leaders in the past and how those characteristics have made them successful. Right. So I sincerely hope that the students will hopefully find a quality in them that is similar to what they see in local leaders. And therefore, they will feel that maybe I can expand or develop this quality that I didn't know I had, or maybe I did know I had, but no one has ever helped me to, you know, develop it more. So maybe I can now try and develop that myself, and then I can become successful going that route.
Right. Well, and I would like to thank both of our guests today's show talking about Question Bridge Black Males. Again, this is a free exhibit. For more information, please go to the Missouri History Museum's website, www.mohistory.org. Check out the schedule. The exhibit runs through June 30th, so you have more than enough time to go and check it out. And please join us next time on City Corner.